And we have takes. Welcome to Football Takes. Football! Yeah! Football!
And do we have football takes? Welcome to episode 2. That's right, episode 2 of Football Takes on the new Score North Football Takes channel. It is Judd Zolgad. It is, of course, Thor Nystrom, who has joined our team and is already producing more content than I can begin to talk about. Thor on Purple, all of that good stuff. AJ Fredrickson producing and also helping guide the ship on our Football Takes. Now, just to explain this, if you missed episode 1. Now, first of all, how dare you go back and watch it? But if you missed episode 1, what this is a new Score North playground for Football Takes. It's not Vikings specific. In fact, it's not even National Football League specific. It's NFL, it's college, it is anything that you want as far as this show goes for Football Takes. And we are going to start with Thor. So Thor, I'm kicking the ball off. It's the new dynamic kickoff towards you. What is your first football take on this Wednesday episode?
I'm not going to allow it to land in the land zone there and then roll into the end zone.
No.
Here we're returning this one and trying to run it back for a touchdown. My take to lead off the show is welcome to Tankathon. We got 4 games left of the NFL season, and we are staring in the face a scenario where there might only be one round 1 quarterback in April. We have a slew of teams that are competing for that number 1 overall spot, including teams that don't need quarterbacks. But because this scenario, if this scenario ends up happening, the first overall pick is going to be worth a metric ton. Let's walk through it really quick and why I think you are going to see some shameless tanking down the stretch here by a couple of these teams. That round 1 quarterback, the one that we know for sure is Indiana's Fernando Mendoza, who we all assume is going to be the first overall pick. And the scenario sets up where he's the only first round quarterback if Oregon's Dante Moore returns to school, as has been reported, is the way he's leaning right now. Of course, we have to see the way that the college football playoff plays out. But if Dante Moore returns to school, then Ty Simpson's played his way out of round 1 consideration right now, and Ty Simpson can return to school as well. This could change if Alabama goes on a tear, but if Alabama gets bounced in round 1 of the playoff and Simpson been playing like he's been playing, he's not going to go in round 1 anyway. And then the other one, Lenora Sellers from South Carolina, we assume that he is going to be returning to campus as well. And would Lenora Sellers, with how raw he is, would he go in the first round if he ended up declaring? But anyway, if those 3 guys return to school, you have this enormous gulf between Mendoza and who would end up being the second quarterback off the board. That could be Garrett Nussmeier of LSU, who's not going to go in round 1. He didn't play well enough, and he doesn't have the physical attributes nor the durability to justify that. Probably a day 2 guy. And then other quarterbacks that we had over the summer were like possibilities but have regressed, where they're going to be day 3 guys. That group includes Clemson's Cade Klubnik, Penn State's Drew Allar, etc. Then you have Oklahoma's John Mateer is a guy who also can return to school earlier this fall in September. He had a good couple game stretch against Michigan and Auburn. People thought, could he be a first round guy? If he ends up declaring, I think it would be a mistake for Mateer. I think he should go back to school. But even if he does declare, he's going to be a day 2 guy. So again, follow me here on this scenario where Fernando Mendoza is the only first round quarterback that we see in April, and what that would do to the first pick from a value perspective when you're thinking about trades, that slot would be worth a metric ton. So let's go through the teams here really quick that in the top 10 that need quarterbacks and then that don't. So we'll start with the teams that for sure absolutely are sitting dead red on a quarterback and are presumably already dreaming about Fernando Mendoza. Sitting in the number 2 slot currently, the Raiders absolutely need a quarterback this season. Then in the 7 slot, the New York Jets absolutely need a quarterback. And then number 8, the Arizona Cardinals. And obviously those last 2 would require big leaps up the board. Teams that don't need quarterbacks in the top 10, currently sitting with the number 1 overall pick, the New York Giants. Obviously they have Jackson Dart. They will not be taking a quarterback. Now having fallen to the 3rd slot, the Tennessee Titans, courtesy of their win over the Browns. They have been in the 1 slot most of the fall. Now they're down to 3, but obviously with Cam Ward, they don't need a quarterback. Then in the number 6 slot, the Washington Commanders, obviously with Jaden Daniels coming back next year, you don't need a quarterback as well. Then teams that are maybe with the quarterback thing, the Browns at number 4. What can Shadir Sanders do these last 4 games to show Cleveland you don't need to give up multiple first-round picks for the top overall pick and take a quarterback? The Saints at number 5. You got 4 games left to evaluate Tyler Shuck. And then the Rams at number 9. Judd, I know you brought it up on a different show earlier this week, but the Matthew Stafford thing, and depending on the way the rest of the season goes, would that inform if Matthew Stafford going to come and come back and play? Could he retire if they have a deep run? And what are the Rams going to do with that? The Rams are sitting in an interesting spot where you have Atlanta's pick currently projected at number 9. You also have your own first round pick. So the Rams do have some ammo here. Other teams with multiple first round picks, the aforementioned Browns, the aforementioned Jets, and then the Cowboys as well. And the Cowboys obviously are not going to be in the quarterback market as well. But I thought it would be interesting to look back at a couple of recent trades for the number 1 overall pick to kind of give us some grounding in this. You guys recall the Caleb Williams trade, or the trade for that slot in 2023. This one came in like a month and change before the draft. But when Carolina traded, or I'm sorry, Chicago, I'm sorry, the Bryce Young trade. I'm sorry. The year before the Caleb Williams one, I apologize. But when the Bears were in that first slot and they ended up trading that pick to set up the Caleb Williams thing the next year, that was one of the picks that they got. But they traded that first pick to the Panthers. Bears received in return DJ Moore, the number 9 pick overall in that draft. And then they got also in that draft, they got a second round pick. So those picks were number 9, number 61. Then they got the 2024 first round pick that turned into Caleb Williams because it was first overall, and also got a 2025 second round pick. Obviously got a metric ton there. Go back to 2016, the Jared Goff trade that involved the Tennessee Titans. In that one, the Rams traded out the number 15 overall pick in that draft in the first round. Then they also traded their second round pick, which is the number 43 pick, and a second round pick as well, which is the 45th pick. That one turned into Derrick Henry, interestingly enough. Then their third round pick, which was 76th. Then their 2017 first round pick, so the first rounder next year and the third rounder next year. That is what the Rams traded in order to get Jared Goff. They also got a 6th round pick back in that one. This draft coming up here, if you see Dante Moore go back to college, if you see Ty Simpson, if the torch gets snuffed out on Alabama quick there, and Lenore Sellers, the expected news that he will return to campus, that is what sets up the scenario where it's just Mendoza. And if that happens, that first pick again is going to be so valuable, even for these teams that don't need the quarterback, just to have the auction, right? Like, team right now that has moved into the first overall slot is the Giants, right? And we've been talking about the Titans now for weeks. But if either of those two teams got it, it's literally an auction. You did have Sotheby's do it, and the guy with the gavel, you'll have 5-6 teams out there giving you their bids, bidding each other up. You could have a quasi-historic and maybe even historic haul for that number 1 overall pick. That's something to look forward to in the future, something to keep your eye on for the next month as we run out the string here for some of these teams out of the playoff run in the NFL, is the tanking element to try to get to the number 1 overall pick. But Fernando Mendoza, you, sir, are sitting in the catbird seat, because there are a lot of teams that are eyeing you right now, and there might not be a lot of other quarterbacks out there in the market.
What's your percentage on Fernando Mendoza being a star?
I think Mendoza, Jared Goff is a guy he gets comped to. Matt Ryan is another guy that he gets comped to. I think that's Jared Goff, I think is probably analogous. And I try not to do the helmet scouting. Of course, Jared Goff came from Cal. That's where Fernando Mendoza was prior to this season. But as far as the guy going to stay in the pocket and run your concepts for you, is it like a singular? Do I think he's going to become like a singular superstar, like top 5 quarterback in the NFL? No, I think Fernando Mendoza that he projects as a guy, it's going to be like rock solid starter for years and years and years, a really good starter. Do I think he's like a singular superstar, traditional kind of number 1 overall pick at quarterback? I don't, but he is going to run your concepts for you, and the kid's got a great arm. It's also shown to be pretty good under duress as well, as we've seen here. And we'll see the run that Indiana ends up happening. Obviously, Indiana is the only undefeated team we have left in the FBS. They beat Ohio State over the weekend and are now the number 1 seed in the CFP. And certainly Mendoza could, make even more of an argument of like, I am the dude here, and convince some of these teams that are drafting lower down to trade up for him. But yeah, the skill set, just because athletically he's kind of like a baby giraffe a little bit, like way up high off the ground, a little bit gangly. On the broadcast, they'll say he's an underrated athlete. I don't know about that. It's the NFL, Fernando, you're going to be staying in the pocket there. Not going to anyone outside of the pocket, and they're not going to want him to take hits anyway. But yeah, a very, very solid quarterback prospect. And again, because of the dearth of quarterback prospects, and by the way, a dearth of overall talent in this class as well. This is a below average class overall, and the top 10 of it, I'm talking even outside the quarterback. You just look at the prospects that are projected to go there. It is underwhelming in relation to recent years, which I think is going to incentivize even more the quarterback desperate teams to be like, well, what do we care about the 5th overall pick, the 6th overall, and start stacking selections, especially those teams with multiple first rounders this year. They might be like, why aren't we going to go out and try make this aggressive push to get the 1 first round quarterback that could be in this class? Again, if Dante Moore returns, if Lenore Sellers returns. So very, very interesting stuff to keep an eye on down the stretch here this season.
That's good stuff. In fact, I will build off of that because yes, every year around this time, teams are quarterback starved, but here's my statement. Here's my take is that the NFL QB pool is frighteningly shallow now. Frighteningly. And I say that because I am partially concerned about the well-being of 44-year-old Phillip Rivers, who might start. He's on the Colts practice squad. He just came back. He hasn't thrown a pass in an NFL game since January 9th of 2021 when the Colts lost in the playoffs to the Buffalo Bills. So the 2020 season is the last time this guy played. 44, he's a grandpa, and he very well might start for a team that had Daniel Jones go down. He's lost now to an Achilles. Riley Leonard, who I believe played at Wisconsin, came in and replaced him, but he has
Notre Dame.
Excuse me. Notre Dame. He has a PCL now, so he might not play. And Phillip Rivers, just think about this for a second, okay? So like of all the quarterbacks that are out there that you can get as backups, Phillip Rivers is going to potentially start. And I just think that sparks a conversation about the pool of quarterbacks, like the backups. If I'm correct on this, the Colts' third quarterback was Brett Rippon, who was a Viking, of course, and who they really liked in the room, like a really smart QB. But they've deemed that he is so bad that he cannot play football that they went out and signed a guy who was coaching his son's high school team. And in fact, the catch is that Rivers' high school team runs the same offense that Shane Steichen and the Colts run. And so they've, I guess, talk on a weekly basis about ideas and stuff. And so that's why he's back. That's part of the reason why.
You can't make it up.
But I mean, this guy is 44 years old. I'm worried about him. He might get killed. Like if he has to play, no one is going to be like, we shouldn't hit him too hard. So I just think there's a conversation here about, and I'm not surprised, but this just hammers it home about how shallow the quarterbacks available in this league are. And the fact that there are teams like the Colts right now with the number 3 who they simply don't trust to play. So they're going to bring back a guy who's been retired essentially for 5 years. I think it's incredible.
That's crazy. Yeah. And the Colts, of course, they don't have their first round pick this year or next year because of the trade for Sauce Gardner, but they are now a quarterback desperate team as well going into the future. Daniel Jones, we'll see if he's even able to come back at the end of next season.
Yeah.
Could be out all of next season. Certainly is not going to be ready for the start of it. So obviously that's going to have a devastating effect on his free agent process, and we'll have to monitor that. But yeah, to your point, Judd, a very, very shallow pool there of quarterbacks. And you see how quickly a playoff contender with the one injury to that position, all of a sudden they're in desperate straits there. Phillip Rivers went up to the lectern today. You know, he had his intro press conference in Indianapolis, and his very first comment, he gets up there into the microphone and he goes, it's good. He said something like, good to see you guys. And it's nice that this isn't on Zoom. And it took me like a second. And then it was like, oh yeah, because the last season he played, it was all during the COVID thing, and it was all on Zoom. It's like, man, this guy, not only is he crazy old, he hadn't been in the sport for a long time. Like, I mean, it really sort of sets you in time.
He's like, I love my 8-track cassette recorder. You know, I've got my VCR all set to tape the game, and it's nice it's not on Zoom. Yeah, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. 2020 now feels like, because of all that we went through, a lifetime ago. Yep. And yeah, he's referencing things from the last time he played, which was the COVID year. So, Age?
The thing about that, too, is you have to remember, in July, he signed a 1-day contract with the Chargers to officially retire as a member of their team.
Do they get draft pick compensation?
I forgot that. Well, and if he sets foot on a field for a game, he stops his Hall of Fame clock and it resets.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, like if he was a borderline guy, he was what? Well, I mean, he was approximately 4 years in to the period to wait. The clock now will reset because he comes back if he plays.
I got a Phillip Rivers story for you guys that I don't think I've ever told on air. When I was a senior in high school, that's when I decided that I was going to go to the University of Kansas, and so of course it became immediately, when I made that decision, the diehard Kansas fan in basketball, but in football as well. And Kansas had hired a guy named Mark Mangino to be their head football coach, and he started to turn the program around. And the first bowl game that they made was that year, going in there, and they played NC State in the Tangerine Bowl. And I'll never forget this because I had a buddy, Mike, in town who came over to watch with me. Kansas against NC State. And it's like, oh, we're going to take these guys down. NC State had a young quarterback by the name of Phillip Rivers. He was a fire-breathing dragon in that. I still see Phillip Rivers from NC State in that Tangerine Bowl in my nightmares. It was every single time, out of shotgun, 3-step drop, bam, ball out right on the hands, ball right on the hands, ball right on the hands. Kansas had never seen anything like it. Their defensive backs were like, uncle, like, I want out of here. And for 60 minutes, Phillip Rivers might have thrown for 600 yards in that game. He's still throwing for yards in that Tangerine Bowl. So like when, he ends up going in that draft, and then it was the thing with the Eli Manning and all this sort of stuff, I was like, I would want Phillip Rivers. Like, to me, that was not a consolation prize. And obviously he ended up having tremendous career. But yeah, man, did he taunt me that day, and other Rock Chalk fans.
Boy. Age, your statement?
All right. So my football take is, I can tell you exactly how the Seattle Seahawks season is going to end this season, because the fact that the 2025 Seattle Seahawks are just the 2024 Minnesota Vikings. They're a team that is quarterbacked by Sam Darnold. They have a run game where you have a clearly lead number one, but a secondary number two, but an upgraded Ty Chandler. Kenneth Walker is essentially your Aaron Jones. They have a star receiver, Jackson Smith-Njigba. He is their Justin Jefferson. Their defense has been one of the better ones in the NFL this year. And the key part here is they are battling with a absolute juggernaut LA Rams team. They both are 10-3 right now. So it's going to come down to a very close, probably divisional game here this weekend. We all remember the Vikings lost this game last season to the Detroit Lions late in the year to go into a tough first-round playoff matchup against a team that, believe it or not, could get to the quarterback. Well, lo and behold, we saw it despite the shutout win 2 weeks ago now. The Vikings, Brian Flores showed you just get to Sam Darnold, you're going to be able to rattle him, and he's going to have an unproductive day. Less than 150 passing yards. It took a pick six and a rushing touchdown to beat the Minnesota Vikings, who didn't score a single point, and a plethora of field goals. So whoever faces the Seahawks in the first round of the playoffs, because I think they're probably going to lose this week against the Rams, they're going to get a tough matchup, and then all that defense is going to have to do, who they face, is just realize we just have to pull Phil from that Vikings game, pull a couple strings, get to Sam Darnold, and we are going to be pouncing into the second round. So that is exactly why you know exactly how the Seahawks season is going to end. An unfortunate, Sam Darnold, amazing. Jackson Smith-Njigba, amazing. It's going to end with a first round playoff loss. And that is my football take.
That's a pretty fascinating parallel between the two situations because it does line up pretty close there. And, you see the echoes from the past there, and pretty fascinating. Sam Darnold, the opportunity to rewrite history or relive it, right? Pretty fascinating how the close parallels between those two. But it'll also be interesting down the stretch here, and certainly you get into the playoffs there, adjustments that defenses make to that offense. And now, of course, you're going to be seeing some of the division teams second time around. What adjustments are going to be made by some of those defenses? What we saw end of last year with the Vikings, that last regular season game, and then the first playoff game, it was pretty simple what defenses were doing. It was just way more aggressive than we had seen during the regular season. Of course, those defenses were better, the contenders that you were playing in those two games, but it was ramp up the blitz. So ramp up the pressure, get pressure in his face, and then take away the first read. So you double, in this case, it would be double in JSN. In that case, it was double in Jefferson. And the idea being, make this guy get to the second or hopefully third, fourth read when you have heat in his face, because that's when you start, and that's when he turned into the fembot from Austin Powers, and the freeze screen of death or whatever. Yeah. Smoke was coming out of his ears, and you saw the way that his game devolved there. Has Sam Darnold taken any steps forward with that? We'll have to see. But scary parallels between those two teams, kind of.
And some more parallels here. If you look at it from last year, the Minnesota Vikings, they averaged 346 yards of offense. In this year's games, the Seahawks are averaging 353 yards of offense. 235 of those are in the air. Last year, the Vikings, 235 yards of their passing, of their yards became in the air as well. 109 yards on the ground average for the Vikings last season, 117 for the Seahawks, and they're averaging 29.8 points per game so far this season. Last season, the Vikings 25.4. So I don't know if this is more of if teams quarterbacked by Sam Darnold look and have to perform a certain way, or if it's just crazy parallels where you're going to see one team just kind of take that storybook roster build and just make it seems like there's a certain mold that they are sliding into this season. And to me, it just seems like there's one crash course ending to how they finish the year.
I think the only difference is, and I'm with you guys, I'm waiting to see, like, when the pressure really gets ratcheted up on Darnold.
Yeah.
What does he look like? But the only difference I will say from a coaching standpoint is, Kevin O'Connell's despising running the football bit the Vikings in the ass hard at Detroit, and then in that Rams game. Now he will say we couldn't get the run game going, but like that's how you win in the playoffs or in late December. Mike McDonald relies on the run a lot more, and Clint Kubiak does as well. So that would be the only difference is, can you basically minimize Darnold's melting down if that does happen through effectively running the football. But I mean, Darnold's meltdown to me, especially, I go back to the Detroit game, the game at Ford Field, to me, that was epic. So it's like he could barely operate. So until I see him operate under those circumstances in a must-win or playoff game, I'm going to be skeptical. But I do like the fact that the Seahawks realize that running the football is not a bad thing. It's a good thing, Thor.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, yeah, and something to greatly help out Sam Darnold. Can an opponent take that away and then lock Sam Darnold into the shark tank there, right? Like into a little cage there with all the sharks circling him. That will be the key there. But yeah, if Seattle's run game is going against some of these opponents, that's when you put Darnold in the down and distance, and where you get the play action game going, where then you can take the deep shots and take the aggressiveness away from the opposing edge rushers, where they can't just pin their ears back. When you are in the scenario where the game script is flipped from you, and now it's just Darnold back there, it's like we have to throw downfield. Defense knows what's coming. That's where the waves of pressure are coming in, and the defensive coordinator knows, take away that first read, make them sit in the pocket, and speed up his timer, and then get heat in the face. And you saw the way that devolved, but that'll be interesting. Boys, do we have time for a second go around, or how are we doing on time? Okay.
Absolutely.
In that case, you guys know I just started here, just started at Hubbard, and we've did the show, had a great first week. Thank you to all the audience out there. Well, we start this week, we start football takes, and over the weekend, my girlfriend was asking me, about the new show and what's this sort of thing, and so I was like, well, it's football takes, and she was like, what are you doing? I was like, well, you give a football take, and she said, well, I have a football take. And I was like, okay, let's hear it. And it was good enough that I had to bring it in front of you guys. So you could provide a referendum as well. But I like this one. She said, we have the injury tents on the sidelines. She said, what we need to add is the confessional tent. Right? You have a separate tent. This isn't the injury tent. You still get your privacy in the injury tent. Okay. But set up a second tent just with a camera in it. And a player wants to go in there during the game. You can say whatever you want in the confessional tent. Be like a Love Island. Be like a Big Brother. Sometimes you see these players, they're like, they're miming, like Randy Moss, the Thanksgiving game against the Cowboys, and he's looking back at the camera. Hi, Mom, and different stuff like that. We now have a confessional tent for you. So you can go in. Antonio Brown, the game where he got ticked off and he ran off the field, he probably had some stuff to say that he could have gotten off
Jefferson
his chest.
right now. Jefferson, I love this idea.
Yeah. We might have to lock Jefferson. Might have to lock him out of the confessional tent.
No, are you kidding? No. If we're going to go down this path, if she's going to get her wish, then you know what? Justin has a safe space, because the confessional tent, you can say whatever you want and it can't be held against you. That's got to be the key. So like if you're like, JJ McCarthy's killing me. Kevin O'Connell, what are you doing? Like, it's all fair game in the confessional tent. I love this idea. In fact, you know what? The new league, it's the XFL and USFL have merged, right?
Mm-hmm.
I forget what
the AFL or something
the league is called.
I don't know.
That should be a confessional tent league. This is a great idea.
Tent league.
Anything you say is fair game. Can't be used against you.
I would have loved to get some confessions after Younghoe Koo's foot plant trying to kick a field goal, and then it cuts to Jackson Dart on the sideline. He's like, "Oh my God, you got to be kidding me! I want every single Giants player in the tent. Like, your one job is to kick a ball." And you didn't even touch
he blamed the holder. So like he would go in the confessional tent and say, "Yeah, he said the ball, and it did. The ball moved.
Laces out."
And he said, "When the ball moved, I stopped." So he would go and say, "This is a bunch of crap." Let's talk about the holder. She is brilliant. I love this idea.
It's great. Yeah. I mean, you could go out and get ahead of the story, or you could go in there, be silly, go in there, be mad. You could go in the confessional. And Judd, I love your idea. We got to soft launch this thing. The NFL, it's like their offensive schemes, they steal from college, they steal from high school, everything, it goes up, right? The NFL is the last one to take all these different things. We soft launch the confessional tent in that league, the USFL or the XFL, whatever that is. Bring us a confessional tent, right? And you get to curate. Like, it's not like, I would love a confessional tent 24/7 channel where it's literally they walk in and you have the option on your TV to switch to it. But, otherwise we start the thing out. At least you have a producer back there looking through the confessional tent stuff, and then we can splice the thing in during the game and whatnot. But I love the confessional tent idea.
Wide receivers would be battling. Like, they would literally be fighting to go in and talk.
AJ Brown would be in there after every
exactly. You're like, where'd AJ Brown go? I thought he was on the bench with his book. He'd be like, no, man, found something better. The confessional
The
tent.
offensive series starting. They can't find AJ Brown. It's like he's in the confessional tent again.
He's going on 8 minutes. We've already burned 2 timeouts. We don't know what to do. It's
like the bathroom. Why has he been in there so long? I love it. All right. I got one more too.
All right.
So perhaps the single game highlight of the Minnesota Vikings 2025 season might be this. Myles Garrett has 20 sacks. The record is TJ Watt and Michael Strahan at 22 and a half. I read a story today where Myles is shooting for 25, so he wants to crush the record. But did you know that there's only 3 instances of games this season in which Myles Garrett has not had a sack, and it was 3 consecutive games? And the second of those games was the Vikings game. The Minnesota Vikings, who, by the way, have had some the offensive line's been hurt. There's been a lot. But, they'd certainly have parts on the quarterback, parts on the line. given up their fair share of sacks. But if you guys recall that Carson Wentz game, the Vikings did a brilliant job of essentially taking care of Garrett and making sure that he didn't spend the entire game in their backfield. But that might be the single game highlight. Like if we're just going through game by game by game. So not like is McCarthy improving, but like just, okay, pick your moments of 2025. Holding a guy who is almost certain, barring injury, to set the NFL sack record, who's had a phenomenal year, a Hall of Fame career, to hold him without a sack might be your greatest accomplishment in a game this season, boys.
It's like a last place team in baseball that one year when Barry Bonds had like an on base percentage of like just south of 500. It was like he was getting, if in one game you held Barry Bonds 0 for 4, there had to be one during that 162 game season when he had that amazing season. This would be analogous of like, well, but we did hold Barry Bonds off the bases in that one game in July.
Pop the champagne.
Pop the champagne, baby. Hang the banner.
Thor, before we go, I found something here.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned your beloved Jayhawks, Rock Chalk, and Rivers beating them, I thought to myself, that sounds familiar. I found it. The 2000 MicronPC.com Bowl, okay? The Minnesota Gophers played NC State. The Gophers lost 38-30. Phillip Rivers, a freshman, 310 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, MVP of the game. The receiver that he threw 7 passes for 157 yards and a touchdown.
Cotchery?
No, Corin Robinson.
Oh, Corin Robinson.
I thought to myself,
Corin
you know what?
Robinson.
The Gophers played NC State around at that same time. A freshman, Phillip Rivers, not surprisingly, I guess, destroyed the Gophers secondary. So it's not just Kansas. Gopher fans know the pain of seeing him in college pick them apart.
Man, Corin Robinson, blast from the past. Haven't thought about that name for a while. By the way, so I'm going to read Phillip Rivers' stat line in that game, the Tangerine Bowl against the Jayhawks, which my Kansas Jayhawks lost 56-26. Phillip Rivers in that game, 37 of 45. That's an 82.2% completion percentage. Wow. 475 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And just for good measure, he also ran for 20 yards. You know, like, man, like I said, that one, I still see it in my nightmares. That was a couple days before Christmas in 2003. And boy, did I have high hopes heading into that game. But Phillip Rivers snuffed them out real quick.
Incredible. All right, boys.
AJ, you got a last one, or are we bouncing?
No, I think we're a little short on time. So we'll wrap up and we'll save the takes for maybe next week.
Yeah, so with that, out of time, but thanks for joining us on the second edition of Football Takes. I am going to be back tomorrow with Robbie Rosenhaus for the first edition of Thor's Hammers, which is our sort of weekly sandbox space on this channel, on this show, to give out our favorite sports bets of the weekend, with college football bowl season starting this coming weekend. The first game's on Saturday, first bowl game on Saturday. Also, the Army-Navy game. Got some best bets there. And, of course, NFL heading into the 4th to last week. We're going to have plenty in that. So we'll be deep diving that tomorrow with Robbie on this channel. Thanks everyone for joining us today. If you please rate, review, subscribe, 5-star review. Certainly subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because this is a new one. It would help us out a lot. But thanks everyone for joining us. We will talk to you tomorrow.